Every survivor who goes through narcissistic abuse reaches this point where you've done a lot of work, you've done a lot of healing, and you feel good. You finally got into a place where the narcissist's projections, the gaslighting, the triangulation, the stonewalling, and the effects of all of that, the trauma bond, is broken. And you feel like you've come to yourself again. And then when you think about going out into the world and interacting with other people, it can be scary because you don't want the harmful effects of the looking glass self. The looking glass self is the self you perceive other people see when they look at you. And a lot of survivors go into isolation to avoid the gaze of other people, because a lot of times just the gaze of other people induces this feeling of being placed back into a role that you were relegated to, a role that you never wanted to play, a role that you never consented to be. But because of everything the narcissist did in that relationship and everything they did to convince you that you were less than what you actually were, then it's hard to regain yourself. It's hard to find yourself again after that type of erasure, being erased in that way, and looking to the narcissist to validate you and to give you a sense of who you are, a sense of being, because they never validated your reality. When you brought issues to them and you told them how you were feeling and what was going on in the relationship and how you needed to change, you needed them to change and do things differently, they never acknowledged it. Instead, they would use Darvo. They would deny, attack, and reverse the role of victim and defender. And the constant exposure to that particular type of abuse and the gaslighting, it did something to you. It broke parts of you away from yourself. It damaged you in ways that you thought were inconceivable. And the betrayal trauma digs deep. It runs to the root of your soul, because this is someone you trusted. This is someone you thought perhaps you would spend the rest of your life with. This is someone who you gave access to your heart and your mind. They were supposed to have your back when other people didn't have your back. They were supposed to be the person who lifted you up when you fell, but instead they became the person that kicked you when you were down, who degraded you and smeared your name and distorted the image of who you were to all the other people in your circle. And so that type of betrayal, it makes you feel like you never want to be in a relationship again. It makes you feel like you never want to trust anyone. And it makes you ask yourself, how can you trust anyone after going through that type of betrayal? And so it's hard to pick up the pieces again and to rebuild, especially after understanding how easily something you thought was solid, something you thought was true, something you thought was firm, could be broken, could be stolen, could be taken away from you, and worse, could have never been real. And that's the type of pain that narcissistic abuse inflicts on you. But you get to this point in your journey and you understand everything that happened, and you've corrected the narrative in your mind, and you understand that it was about them. But it's not linear. Sometimes you feel good. You have days where you feel great. You have days where you feel like, you can fly and you can do anything you want. But then you also have those days that you question yourself, you doubt yourself. You might even ask yourself if you were the narcissist. And those days, they come and they go. You go through the different stages of grief. You go through the denial and the anger and the bargaining and the depression and the acceptance. And that becomes your cycle for a while as you vacillate between these different feelings and these different thoughts and, these two different narratives that are opposing one another, that's in your mind at the same time. And the more you validate yourself, the more you pick yourself up and you tell yourself, remind yourself of who you are and everything that you've overcome, the easier it becomes to remember who you are. Just like Mufasa told Simba, you have to remember who you are. And the other huge part of recovery and getting through that process and moving to the next level, once you feel like you've broken that trauma bond, is being around other people and building affirming relationships, being in relationships with people who see you, who know you, who love you, who want you to win, who care about you. And more importantly, and probably equally importantly, is that they're emotionally intelligent. The huge thing about narcissistic abuse, it's not so much that the narcissist did all of these things to hurt you. It's that there was no acknowledgement of it. It's that there was no contrition on their part, no willingness to put themselves on trial and to acknowledge to you that they hurt you, that they did something to harm you, that they did something that they knew was wrong. They never acknowledge it. And that's one of the things that distinguishes narcissistic abuse from other types of abuse. And the result of that non-affirming relationship, and just where they gaslighted you the whole time, is that you're left with this lack of clarity, this lack of certainty. And when you go around other people, you often find yourself putting yourself in their narrative and seeing yourself from their perspective, because that's what was necessary for you to do to survive in that narcissistically abusive relationship. You had to acquiesce to the paradigm through which the narcissist saw you in order to get them back on your side, in order to get them to give you a little bit of attention, a little bit of affection, so that you could feel normal in your body again, so that you could feel whole in your body again by getting a little bit of dopamine. And that was your pattern, that was your routine. And depending on how long you were in that relationship, you've been conditioned. Your body's been conditioned, your heart's been conditioned, your mind's been conditioned to play that role and to seek the validation and to get that support from other people, because your trust in yourself, your ability to validate yourself, has been depleted because of that abuse, because of the trauma. It's analogous to the relationship between a battery and an alternator that's in a car. When you love someone and you're in a relationship with someone, that you don't want to need them. You don't want to be codependent. At the same time, there's a certain reciprocity that comes from people you love when you're in a relationship with someone. And narcissists don't do that. They don't do reciprocity. and you don't have that sense of stability within the relationship. They do things to make you insecure. They play other people against you. They use your doubts against you. They use everything they can in order to maintain control over you, because it was never about a relationship. It was about supply. It was about their ability to feed off of you and to get their needs met without having to be accountable, without having to reciprocate, without ever having to grow and change emotionally. And so when you're thinking about being in another relationship, you're thinking about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable again, it's scary. It's, it's really scary. And you hesitate and you question people, and you wonder at the slightest thing that triggers you, if this other person is a narcissist. And you go through those thoughts because you never want to go back to where you were. You never want to go back there. And in the process of finding yourself again, what you have to do is develop the ability to separate other people's stuff from your own stuff. You want to be still enough to recognize when you're being triggered, to acknowledge when you're being triggered, and to sit still and to work through it. Work through it. Allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to take healthy risks, to experience the bumps in the road that come with relationships, to experience some of the scrapes that you experience in narcissistic or in regular relationships, not narcissistic relationships, but in regular relationships, because every relationship is going to have conflict. If you try to play the game of perfection, because the motivation in the game of perfection is fear of being hurt again. And if you try to play the game of perfection and you say, you know what, I only want relationships that look perfect, that feel perfect, and that will never ever hurt me, then that's what that way of thinking, that mentality is what will drive the need for isolation, solitude, and avoidance. But when you're willing to take healthy risks, you put yourself around the type of people who care about you, people who love you, people who want to see you win and want to see you succeed, they're going to make mistakes too. They're going to slip up. And when they do, because it's not a matter of if, we're all human. No one's perfect. And so when they slip up, you want to have a way of interacting, a way of communicating that doesn't make you abandon yourself, and it also doesn't cause you to retreat. It doesn't set you up to just write other people off. And inch by inch, as you practice trusting other people, and trust, when you think about trust is not something that you just turn off and on like a switch. It's a case-by-case basis with the people you interact with, the people you come in contact with on a daily basis. Every behavior, every interaction is a piece of communication. And you want to trust yourself and be present in the moment. You want to observe every interaction and be present enough to ask yourself clearly, what is this? What is being communicated through this interaction? And each time you do that and you stay present and you stay grounded, you're building up your ability to trust yourself, to discern what's happening in this moment. Because unfortunately, what happens in a narcissistically abusive relationship is you get conditioned to abandon your own perspective. because you take on the perspective of the narcissist just to survive the relationship. And so a major part of finding yourself again is being present in this moment and being clear about what's happening. But to get that clarity, to really be clear, you have to be present. And to be present, you have to have a calm nervous system. Your nervous system has to be calm. And oftentimes what you have to do to achieve that calmness and that sense of presence is breath work, breathing techniques, and type of techniques that I teach to my clients who are recovering from narcissistic abuse to get the nervous system into a state of safety where you feel safe. And when you feel safe in your own body, then you can be present. And when you're present, then you can observe what's going on in the moment with clarity and not be reactive to the filters that are in your mind, associating every interaction with the hell you went through in that narcissistically abusive relationship. And the more you practice that, practice makes better. Practice makes better. And one of the keys to really getting to a point where your concept of self becomes strong, it becomes healthy, it becomes firm again, and you find yourself, your authentic self again, is having affirming relationships where you have people in your life who tell you through their actions that they love you. They tell you through your actions that you're valuable, that you're worth it, that you're worthy of all the love that you were seeking and searching for with the narcissist, the love that you never received from them, not in truth. And as you find those people who love you and care about you and affirm you, and you come to trust the communication that they're giving you through their actions, not through words, but through actions. And you learn how to trust yourself to set the boundaries that are necessary to distance people from your life who are not affirming, who don't see you, who don't validate you, who don't have a vested interest in seeing you win. You separate yourself and distance yourself from those people, because when they're in your life, it's not even a matter of punishing them or being mad at them or hurting them. Oftentimes you still love those people. You have compassion and you don't want to see anything bad happen to them. But it's about healing. It's about not allowing anyone to reopen the wounds that the narcissist inflicted on you. And it's also about acknowledging that certain people who you've allowed in your life haven't been supportive, haven't been affirming, haven't really shown you the love that you deserve. And the more you learn to love yourself, the more you practice self-love and you set those boundaries that are necessary for you to set, something amazing starts to happen. You start to see yourself. You start to love yourself. And that self-love that's combined with those affirming relationships, it gives you this sense of power where other people's misconceptions of you don't affect you. You become impervious to the opinions of people who mean you no good. And you also are able to differentiate between their filters, their baggage that they're projecting onto you, and who you are as a person. You begin to disidentify with the narrative of the narcissist, because the introject in your mind that comes as a result of everything you endured in that abusive relationship has to be dissolved. It has to be recognized, first of all, for what it is. When you feel that self-critic, that inner self-critic, that's actually the serpent voice of the narcissist telling you all of those things about yourself that are not true, that you're not good enough, that you're not lovable, that you're not worthy, that you're not capable. All of the things that it communicates to you, learning how to differentiate between that voice and the voice of truth, being able to acknowledge this is not truth, this is trauma that's coming back up. And when you acknowledge it, every single time you acknowledge it, what you're doing is you're disidentifying with the serpent voice. You're disidentifying with the introject. And that space where you disidentify, that's consciousness. That's consciousness. And the more consciousness that you invite into your life, the more elevated you become, and the more healed you become, and the more comfortable in your skin you become, to where you're able to walk with confidence. You're able to be in relationships confidently. You're able to release relationships confidently without questioning yourself, without abandoning yourself, without scrutinizing every single step that you take along the way to determine who was right and who was wrong, because you've come to see yourself in a new light. You've come to regain your righteous mind and understand that everything the narcissist did to you was about them. It wasn't personal. It was about their hurt, their pain, their trauma, their toxicity. And you were the collateral damage. You were the collateral damage of their dysfunction. And when you really understand all of those things, and you have those affirming relationships, and you understand that you are worthy, you are capable, you are lovable, you are wanted, and you really believe that, not just in your mind, not just on a cognitive level, but on a felt level, on a visceral, emotional, spiritual level, you really understand that, that's when you walk into a new truth. That's when you are in a new level of consciousness. You raise yourself to a higher level of consciousness and self-love, and you walk with a greater peace about you that allows you to let go of the pain and to reintegrate yourself into relationships. Not because all relationships are safe or all relationships are going to be perfect, but because you trust you. You recognize who you are. You recognize that you have the ability to discern truth from fiction and truth from fantasy, and to know when someone has your best interests at heart and when they don't. And you trust yourself to be able to make that decision and determination, not because you think that you'll never experience pain again, not because you think you'll never suffer again, but you're willing to take that risk because you're a new person now. You see more clearly, you understand more deeply, and you discern on a different level. And that's what this journey was about. It wasn't something that happened to you. It's something that happened for you to raise your level of consciousness, your level of awareness, your level of discernment. And now that you're in this new space and that you're ready to take the next step and to go to the next level, you want to embody that truth and own that truth and step into the world with confidence, one step at a time, one step at a time, one conversation at a time, one interaction at a time. And you will have moments where you may doubt yourself, but that's when you go back to your breathing. That's when you go back to your tools. That's when you go back to reaffirming yourself, validating yourself, and then getting back up and trying again. And that's the process of healing from narcissistic abuse.